Hi, my name is Lisa, and for this week's discussion post, I chose to respond to structural racism operates through systems and institutions such as employment, housing, healthcare, and criminal justice that produces unequal outcomes even without overt racist intent. Can you identify an example from your own community or experience where structural racism might be at work? How does understanding racism as a systematic rather than an individual change the way Christians might respond to issues of racial justice? So, an example from the medical field would be there was recently, or semi recently, a medical student who pointed out a major gap in proper patient care. With imaging, like x rays, there's something called artifact. And artifact is an anomaly that appears in the imaging but is not something representative of a concern to the patient. For example, if a patient was wearing a piece of jewelry, something metal, the patient moved, like took a breath while the image was being taken, or any other thing that could potentially show up in the image like that. In about 2023, there was a medical student who was researching and found that there was a massive gap in the education for understanding Black hairstyling in images with them being artifact. This meant that if a patient had braids, locks, or twists, sometimes it could show up in the imaging. And with reading those images, if the person lacked education, they frequently thought it was areas of concern instead of artifact. This would then mean that the patient could be sent for additional imaging, testing, or even additional further treatment, which would have been unnecessary because this was artifact instead of concern. This could lead to misdiagnosis, additional costs, increased anxiety, simply due to the fact that the doctor reading the x-ray did not know how to recognize this artifact in the image. This shows structural racism because of how the education was set up for the providers, with missing key pieces of education to ensure proper care for all patients. I think understanding racism as a systematic change is important to Christians because it allows us to focus on keeping our eyes open to what parts of the system need change and to be more aware in what ways the system is broken. The reading touched on that most of the time systematic evil is simpler and more subtle. So this kind of goes into the point that we should keep our eyes open because it's not going to be an obvious, blaring area of concern that's clear. It is going to be something that you have to pay attention to and keep your eyes peeled for to see these areas of injustice. So, thank you.